Now that we have had a little practice with painting a house that has snow on it, I thought we could paint a miniature snowy village. I have all my supplies here. Paints, paper, water, a couple sizes of brushes, a sponge, and a pencil. And I think I'm gonna start by just drawing a few house shapes. I'm gonna make them all two-dimensional, so we'll just be looking straight at the houses without needing to add any parts of the sides of the houses. And then maybe there will be a couple trees in between. Since we know how to paint a tree with snow on it, and we know how to paint a house with snow on it, this should come together pretty easily. It might take a little while. This could be a longer video because there's different parts that have to dry. But you can always take a break and come back. You could also make this village or make this painting only have 2 houses or maybe 3. I think I'm gonna do as many as I can fit going across the bottom part of the paper here. So I'm gonna start in the middle. I'll draw a line that kind of shows where the ground is. The ground could also just be the bottom of your paper. And I'm gonna put in the middle here, I'm gonna do a pretty big house. Maybe this is more of an apartment building. And a door. I always start with the roof and then I do the door. Helps me to see where I'll still need to have room for windows. I'm gonna do windows all the way across in 2 rows. I think I can fit 4. And then down here, I'm gonna do bigger windows. Like that. What if we do tiny roofs on these? Would that be cute? Let's try it. And then these will just get the crossbars. And then above each window, there's gonna be a little pile of snow. So I'm just drawing that rectangle so that I remember to keep it white. And there will be little piles of snow on the tops of these. And also on the roof, for sure. All right, now I'm gonna do some smaller houses, but I'm gonna make this one tall and skinny. I just want each house to be a little bit different. And maybe I'll add on to this house here. And this house could have a chimney. But I have to remember that there's also snow on top here. And this whole roof will be snowy. So it's going to take some time to get this set up. And because it's small, it's going to take some time to paint it too. But this could be a really fun painting to send as a card to somebody or to hang on your wall or to use as a gift tag on a Christmas package. I'm gonna put shutters on this window. Should we have a tree here? I think so. And how about one here? I'm just making a triangle to save that space. Okay, how about a little cottage? That needs a chimney too, for sure. And some snow. And a little round door. And just 2 tiny windows. And then I'll do one more. I think I want just a tall, skinny house. So I'm gonna do that. And I'll do a bigger tree over here. So if this is feeling like it's going too fast, just push pause and do all of your drawings and then come back and we'll start painting. I have a couple palettes here that have some good greens in them from other times that I've been painting. So I think I'm gonna start by using those and I'll work on the trees. So these greens are the green from the palette here, this emerald green. And let's see. This one I think might just be emerald green with just some leftover black or brown in it, but I don't remember what I mixed there. This one for sure is emerald green and brown. This is emerald green and black. And this is emerald green and yellow. So I'm gonna do these trees because they're small. I'm gonna make these kind of like, almost like if I was pretending there's frosting on them. I'm gonna save these wiggly lines here. I'm gonna keep those white. And then I'm gonna paint the rest green. Let's see how that looks. So I have to use a really small brush because I have a very small painting going on here. If you have a bigger brush but it has a nice fine point to the end, then that would for sure work also. I'm gonna start with emerald green mixed with brown. And I'm just gonna try and put some green in. It doesn't have to be perfectly filled in. I'm just kind of doing some zigzaggy lines in these places that I'm not saving for snow. Almost like vertical stripes. And now that I can see how that looks with green on it, I'm gonna do it to these trees too. I'm not gonna draw the shapes for snow. I think I can do it without drawing, but please do your drawing if you feel like that will help. I'm just kind of making stripes going around this tree. I'm just barely touching the brush to the paper, just to kind of drop the paint off. I'm trying to not spread it around too much. I'm trying to just leave it here. See how these lines are kind of shaggy? That's going to help it look like a evergreen tree. Okay, now with the green mixed with black, I'm gonna do the same thing, but just a little bit, just here and there. Just put a couple little dark spots in. Ooh, and where it's wet, gosh, it travels fast. So on these wet trees, I'm just gonna touch it in a tiny bit in a couple places, and then I might come back and add more dark to it later, but it might spread and be just right. Okay, while those are drying, let's mix up a really pale blue and work on the snow shadows. All these places, all the rooftops, all the snow piled up on the windows, and then we'll have the blue ready so that we can put the snow on the trees when the green paint is dry. If we do it now, it's just gonna turn into a mess. So a pale blue. I have something going on here that I'm gonna clean out. It's fastest to clean it out with a big brush that's wet. And then I'll dry that brush off and use the brush to pull this paint out. There. So watery blue means I'll use this big brush and I'll put a good amount of water in there. And then I'm gonna use my small brush because that's ultimately what I'm gonna use. And I'm gonna get this, it's kind of a cobalt blue. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of it in. And I want a tiny bit of turquoise also. That's very watery and pale, which is great. I'm looking for something I could, a little scratch paper I could test this on. So I can show you what color we're working with here. Can you even see that there's blue there? It's very pale. It looks pretty dark in this little paint palette, but when I actually paint with it, very, very pale, and that's what we're looking for. Something that just has the hint of blue. So I'm gonna go along and put that on the rooftops, just in a few places. And I'm gonna probably go back and erase this pencil. So I'm gonna try not to paint on top of the pencil. I'm picky about pencil, but it's a little bit silly. So I know that about myself, that I would rather the pencil lines weren't showing, but I know that I need the pencil lines there to be able to get the right shapes on the paper. So I'm trying not to paint on top of the pencil. That will let me go back and erase it. And I'm also not filling in this whole snow area with blue. Just doing a little bit of blue here and there. Because those are the places where there's lumps and bumps in the snow, and this is what helps it look like there's some shadows happening. Because snow is white, but there's always a shadow or two. So just a few little details of this blue color on all the rooftops. And above the windows and doors if you want. I'm sure it's hard to see where I'm putting this paint from a distance because it's so pale, so I hope that you're able to see as I'm going here. But I'm also just kind of moving my brush along and touching it down in a few places. So I need it on these little rooftops. And then this whole roof on the side is showing here, so I'm gonna do some blue across the top, and then I'm kind of gonna go in almost in stripes across the roof. Might help to show where the roof, like the roofing tiles are. I forgot to put a door on this house. Oh, that's kind of funny. Well, hopefully they have a door in the back. Okay. Trying to decide what to paint next, because the trees are still a little bit wet. The roof's wet now. Let's paint the windows. I think we could paint the yellow of the windows right now. I'm gonna leave some kind of white, but I'll do a really pale yellow to show that the lights are on inside some of these houses. For a pale yellow, I need to wash this spot out. I'll do the same thing. And for this yellow, I think I'm gonna have to add some white. I don't have very much yellow left in my paint palette here. So I'm gonna put some yellow in, and then I'm just gonna get a little dash of white and then some water. Yeah. I think I'll choose a corner of the windows to add this light spot to. I think I'll do like the bottom left of each window. And then I'm gonna go back with some water and kind of blend it in. While I'm doing this, I'm starting to think about what color I want these houses to be. I really want them to be bright colors. But not, I don't know, not crazy. But nice and bright, nice and colorful, like a European winter village. Okay, now just to brush with a little bit of water and, oops, too much water. I'm just gonna try and blend that yellow over a little so there isn't a real hard line where the yellow starts and the rest of the window comes in. All right, I'm looking at this tree and it's dry enough to add just a little bit of blue in some places for the snowy parts. I'm still gonna be careful to not touch the green as best I can, but it's probably inevitable that I'll get a little blending. These are still wet. Okay, I'm gonna paint some houses now. Use my medium brush, and for sure I want one house to be blue, green, orange, and maybe like a pinkish red, I think is what I'll do. So I'm gonna paint the houses themselves a more washed out color so that I can add some details on top, like shingles or trim, that kind of thing. I'll start with this little house because it's the driest. And I'm gonna use this blue in the palette. It's that kind of cobalt blue, and I've got quite a lot of water on my brush. So I'm just gonna put it on here. And I'm gonna try and spread out all the color and not go back for more. That'll make the background pretty pale. It's easy to add more color to it, but it's harder to lighten it afterwards. I think I'm gonna go darker. Now that I'm looking at it, the white of the snow isn't really gonna show up very much if I leave it that pale. It ended up being this kind of the same color as the snow shadows. I'm gonna go darker. And I might even add another layer of dark blue on top of this. I'm gonna try this darker color and see if I like it. I think that might be better. All right, switching. Now that I have so much paint on here, it's gonna take a while for it to dry, but that's okay. Okay, I'm leaving that. And I want to do a red, house. I'm gonna need my small brush from now on because of how full these are with windows and doors. I'm gonna do the cute little sideways house over here. I'll make this red. I'll make the big house green. And for that, I'm gonna mix up a little green and brown. I'm just gonna do the tiniest bit of brown. I'm gonna leave this center part blank. I just had an idea to paint some kind of crisscrossing wooden pieces to make it look a little bit more Bavarian. So I'm gonna have to wait, and I'll use some brown for that, and wait till everything's dry. So I'm gonna paint this little one down here orange. Do this lighter orange, I think. If you don't have this light orange in your palette, you could use your regular orange and add some yellow to it. Okay, there's a couple more things I can do while I wait for everything to dry. And one part that I'm gonna do is the brown of the chimney. I'm gonna see what this color is. I want a brown that's a little bit reddish. So I'll mix a little red into it. Kind of a brick, kind of giving the idea of bricks. Trying so hard not to rest my hand on this paint. Places where I've painted, it's hard for me. I end up always smearing the paint around while I try to keep painting while other parts are drying. Okay, now I think I have to, oh, I can do one more thing. I can do the blue snowy bits on these trees now. And the way my snowy parts are drying, I can tell I'm gonna need to go back and add a few places with kind of a brighter blue. It's pale and maybe a little too pale right now. It's great for the first layer. I might just add a little more blue in when I come back to this. But for now, I'm gonna have to let this all dry, and then I'll look and see how it's coming together, and we'll do the second part. We'll probably do the second part tomorrow, so I can keep these relatively short.